Not all of the great stories from the ancient world are written down in dusty old books. Some of the most incredible, most tragic tales are actually written in nature itself, literally blooming from the earth with a kind of secret message, if you just know where to look. So let me ask you this directly. Do you think it's possible? Could a simple flower, one you might just walk past in a garden, actually hold an ancient story of love, of deep tragedy, and even divine jealousy? Well, the answer to that is yes, and it all comes down to two little Greek letters, alpha and iota. When you put them together, they make a sound like I, which in ancient Greek is a raw, pure sound of grief. And according to myth, this exact cry of sorrow is inscribed on the petals of one very special flower. And that flower is the hyacinth. The legend says it sprang directly from the blood of a fallen youth, its petals forever marked by a god's heartbroken cry. So today, that's what we're going to do. We're going to unpack the story, or maybe I should say the stories, hidden within this one flower. Okay, so our first story. It begins in a way that so many of these Greek myths do, with a powerful god falling head over heels for a mortal. Our main characters here are Apollo, the brilliant god of music and light, and a handsome young Spartan named Hyacinthus. And when I say Apollo fell for him, I mean he was completely captivated. He pretty much abandoned all his divine duties. He even left his sacred temple at Delphi, which was supposed to be the center of the entire world, just empty. All so he could wander the mountains with Hyacinthus, not as a god, but just as his friend, his companion. So on this one particular day, the sun is high in the sky, it's a perfect afternoon, and the two of them decide to have a friendly contest, throwing the discus. I mean, the scene is just idyllic, it's peaceful, it's one of those perfect moments. But of course, it's right then that everything goes horribly wrong. So Apollo, showing off his godly strength, just hurls the discus. It flies so high it practically disappears into the clouds. And Hyacinthus, being young and eager, sprints to go catch it as it comes down. But the heavy discus smashes into the hard ground, takes a bad bounce, and rebounds with this awful, violent force, striking the boy right in the face. The Roman poet Ovid, he described this moment with such a devastating image. He compares Hyacinthus in that moment to a flower in a garden that's just been snapped at the stem, his head just drooping as all the life drains away. It's just a perfect, heartbreaking metaphor. Apollo is just shattered. He rushes over, he holds the boy, he tries to use all of his divine powers of healing, but it's no use. It's too late. And this is the ultimate tragedy for him. He's a god, but he's powerless to save the one person he loves. And because he's immortal, he can't even choose to die to be with him. So instead, he makes a promise. He promises that Hyacinthus will be remembered forever. As the boy's blood soaks into the green grass, Apollo transforms it. And from that blood-stained earth, a new, stunningly purple flower blooms. And on its petals, Apollo himself scratches his own cries of grief, A lament that will now bloom for all time. It's a beautiful, tragic story, right? But that's not the only version. Some ancient writers hinted that this wasn't an accident at all, that it was something much, much darker. So what if there was another force at play that day? Another god on that field, whose will turned a simple game into a murder? Well, it turns out Apollo wasn't the only god who was in love with Hyacinthus. Zephyrus, the god of the west wind, also wanted him. But you can see the contrast, right? Apollo offered light, music, and joy. Zephyrus was, he was the wind, wild, unpredictable, and tempestuous. Hyacinthus made his choice pretty clear. He preferred Apollo. And in this version of the myth, Zephyrus was watching that whole discus contest, just simmering with jealousy. And when Apollo made his throw, the west wind blew a powerful, vicious gust, intentionally knocking the discus off course and turning it into a deadly projectile. Suddenly, the story completely changes from a tragic accident into a cold, calculated act of revenge. But hang on, because the story of this flower gets even more complicated. That inscription, AI, it doesn't just belong to Hyacinthus. It's also connected to the death of one of the greatest heroes of the Trojan War. Now, I'm not kidding. The very same flower is said to have also sprung from the blood of Ajax the Great. So now we're left with a huge question. How can one flower possibly hold the tragic stories of two completely different people from two different myths? So, the story of Ajax is all about wounded pride. He was this incredible warrior, second only to Achilles. But after Achilles died, Ajax and Odysseus both claimed his divine armor. When the prize was given to Odysseus, Ajax was so overcome with shame and humiliation that he fell on his own sword. And just like with Hyacinthus, the poet Ovid tells us that from his blood, that same purple flower bloomed. And this is where it all clicks together so brilliantly. Those letters, A-I-A, suddenly have an incredible double meaning. For Hyacinthus, they are Apollo's cry of sorrow, A-I-A. But for Ajax, well, A-I are the first two letters of his name in Greek, Aios. The exact same marking on the petals tells two completely separate but equally tragic stories. And listen, this isn't some modern interpretation. The ancient Roman naturalist Pliny the Elder wrote about this specifically. He called it the flower's double narrative. He said you could look at the marks on the petals and read them either as a lament for a lost love or as the first letters of a fallen hero's name. It all depends on which story you're telling. So what do we do with all this? Is the hyacinth a story of a tragic accident or a jealous murder? Is it a monument to a god's lost love or to a hero's broken pride? The truth is, it's all of those things. This one flower shows us something amazing about how the ancients saw their world. For them, nature wasn't just there. It was a living canvas. They could look at the delicate patterns on a flower petal and read into them their most profound human dramas: love, jealousy, grief, and heroism. And that really leaves us with one last thought to chew on. The ancient Greeks could find an entire epic tragedy in a single flower. It really makes you wonder, if you look closely enough, what stories are hiding in plain sight in the world all around you right now?